Have you ever woken up one morning, looked in the mirror, and thought, when did I start feeling this tired? Maybe it's not just about wrinkles or gray hair. It's the feeling that your spark, that quiet joy that used to hum in the background of your days, has dimmed a little. You might notice yourself worrying more, comparing yourself to who you once were, or try to keep up with old habits that just don't fit anymore. But here's the truth. Happiness after 60 isn't about doing more. It's often about doing less. That's right. Less stress, less pressure, less pretending to be who you were 20 years ago. The secret to feeling lighter, freer, and more at peace in the stage of life often lies in what you stop doing, not what you start. Today, we're going to talk about 5 things that many people over 60 keep doing without realizing how much they steal from their happiness. If you can let go of even 1 or 2 of them, you might be surprised by how quickly your sense of joy and calm start to return. Let's start with one of the biggest happiness thieves of all, holding on to the past. You see, our minds are time travelers. They love to revisit memories. Sometimes it's a beautiful thing, remembering a loved one's laughter, a trip that made your heart soar, or a moment when you felt proud and unstoppable. But as we get older, those same memories can turn bittersweet. We start comparing our younger body, our busier social life, our sharper mind. And before we know it, the present starts to feel dull and disappointing in comparison. But here's a comforting thought. You're not supposed to be who you were at 30 or 40. You're not in decline, you're in transition. This stage of life is about a quieter kind of richness, the wisdom that comes from having lived through storms and still waking up every morning with gratitude. When you stop clinging to the past, you create space for something even more meaningful, presence. Try this the next time nostalgia hits hard. Instead of wishing to go back, ask yourself, what I have now that I didn't appreciate before? Maybe it's time, real, uninterrupted time to breathe, to think, to simply be. Or maybe it's the ability to see life's patterns, to understand what truly matters. When you start noticing those gifts, you'll find that happiness hasn't left. It's just waiting for you to look in the right direction. Now, let's move to another habit that quietly chips away at peace of mind, trying to please everyone. This one is tough because for most of your life, you've probably been the rock for other people. You raised kids, cared for family, kept the peace at work, and made sure everyone else was okay. But somewhere along the way, your own needs might have gotten buried under the weight of yes. At 60, 70, or 80, that pattern can be exhausting. And worse, it can keep you from discovering who you really are when you're not defined by what others need from you. Here's a gentle reminder. You don't owe everyone your time or energy. You've earned the right to choose how you spend your days. You don't have to attend every family drama, volunteer for every little thing, or keep quiet when something doesn't sit right with you. Saying no isn't selfish. It's self-care. Think about it. When you stop people-pleasing, you give others permission to take responsibility for themselves. You start showing them what healthy boundaries look like. And surprisingly, most people will respect you more for it. Happiness grows in that space. The space where your choices finally align with your heart, not just your habits. It might feel awkward at first. Maybe you've spent decades being the dependable one, the fixer. But imagine what it would feel like to wake up and spend a day exactly how you want to. Reading by the window, tending to your garden, taking a slow walk, or simply doing nothing at all without guilt. That kind of freedom is priceless. Now, let's talk about another habit that sneaks in quietly. Comparing yourself to others. It's almost automatic. You see someone your age traveling the world, someone else running marathons, and suddenly you're wondering, why don't I have that kind of energy anymore? Or maybe it's the opposite. You see someone struggling, and you feel guilty for being in a better place. But comparison, in any direction, steals joy because it keeps your eyes fixed on someone else's story instead of your own. Here's the truth. Happiness after 60 has no universal formula. Some people find it in grand adventures, others in quiet routines. What matters isn't how your life looks from the outside, but how it feels on the inside. Maybe you're happiest sitting on your porch with a cup of tea, watching the world go by slowly, and that's perfectly enough. You probably heard the saying, comparison is a thief of joy. But it's more than that. It's also the thief of gratitude. When you stop measuring yourself against others, you suddenly notice all the small, wonderful things you already have. Your morning rituals, your favorite chair, the sunlight dancing through your kitchen window, the way your grandchild smiles at you. These aren't small things. They're the texture of a meaningful life. If you ever catch yourself slipping into comparison, pause and take a deep breath. Remind yourself, I'm not behind. I'm not ahead. I'm right where I need to be. Happiness doesn't bloom from chasing what others have. It grows when you water the life you've already built. And that's really the heart of it, letting go of what no longer serves you. Whether it's the past that weighs you down, the pressure to please, or the habit of comparing. Each time you release one of these burdens, you gain a little more lightness, a little more peace. Life after 60 isn't a countdown. It's a chance to finally live without the noise of expectations. So take a moment. Think about which of these habits might be quietly standing between you and your happiness. Because once you start noticing them, you can begin to let them go gently, one by one. And in their place, rediscover that quiet joy that's been waiting for you all along. Now, with that in mind, let's continue by looking at another pattern that often hides behind good intentions, but ends up draining our energy and dulling our days. Have you ever noticed how much time we spend worrying about things we can't control? It starts small. Maybe you're thinking about the news or a health report or something a friend said last week. And before you know it, that thought has built itself into a whole story in your mind. You replay it, question it, try to solve it. And yet, nothing really changes except how tense you feel. It's like being stuck on a treadmill that never moves forward. After 60, this kind of worry can quietly drain your joy. You might think it's being responsible or cautious, but often it's just your mind's way of trying to control the uncontrollable. Maybe you worry about your children's choices, your financial future, or what the next few years might bring. But worrying doesn't fix tomorrow. It just robs today of peace. Here's something I've seen time and again. When people learn to let go of what they can't control, their faces soften. Their breathing slows down. Their laughter comes easier. Life feels lighter not because it got easier, but because they stopped fighting what they couldn't change. Think of it like this. Life is a river. You can paddle, you can steer, but you can't control the current. The more you try to fight it, the more exhausted you become. But when you learn to float, to trust that you'll be carried where you need to go, something magical happens. You stop bracing for disaster and start noticing the beauty around you. The way the light reflects on the water, the sound of birds nearby, the peace that comes from simply being here. Now, if you want a simple way to begin loosening the grip of worry, try a small practice. Whenever you catch your mind spinning, ask yourself, is this something I can act on right now? If the answer is yes, do it. If not, take a deep breath and remind yourself, then it's not mine to carry today. Over time, that tiny pause will retrain your mind to choose peace over panic. Now, let's talk about something equally subtle but just as powerful, the habit of living without purpose. This one creeps in quietly after retirement. For decades, you might have had clear roles, worker, parent, caregiver, provider. And when those roles shift or fade, a strange emptiness can appear. The days start to blur together, and even if you're busy, something feels missing. You wake up thinking, what now? But here's the good news. Purpose isn't something you lose with age. It just changes shape. It's not always about big achievements or goals anymore. At this stage of life, purpose often looks like connection, curiosity, and kindness. Maybe it's tending your garden, writing your memories down, mentoring someone younger, or simply bringing joy to the people around you. Think about how much wisdom you've gathered, all the lessons, mistakes, triumphs, and quiet realizations that younger generations are still chasing. That's priceless. Sharing even a small piece of that can give your days a new rhythm, a sense of direction again. One woman I spoke with said she found her purpose every morning when she walked around her neighborhood and smiled at everyone she passed. It sounds silly, she laughed, but those little smiles change the whole day. Another man said his purpose came from teaching his granddaughter how to fix a leaky faucet. It's not about the faucet, he said. It's about reminding her that she can do things on her own. Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It just has to mean something to you. It's the thing that makes you feel alive, however small it seems. When you have something to look forward to, something that matters, even the quiet days feel full again. Now, let's move to another thing that steals happiness without us realizing it: staying stuck in negativity. It's easy to do, especially if life hasn't gone quite as planned. Maybe you face loss, illness, or disappointments. After a while, it can start to feel like the world has tilted toward the darker side of things. You might catch yourself focusing on what's missing instead of what's left, what's broken instead of what still works. But negativity is like fog. It blocks your view of all the good that's still around you. The truth is, your mind becomes what it's most exposed to. If you feed it constant worry, frustration, and pessimism, that's what will grow. But if you start feeding it moments of gratitude, laughter, and wonder, even tiny ones, your whole outlook begins to shift. It's not about pretending everything's perfect. It's about noticing that even in the imperfect, there's beauty. Maybe your knees ache, but you still have legs that carry you outside. Maybe your house feels too quiet, but that same quiet gives you peace. Gratitude doesn't erase problems. It simply gives you a wider lens to see that life is still offering you gifts. You can start small. Each evening, think of just one good thing from your day. It could be as simple as a delicious cup of tea, a kind word from a stranger, or a memory that made you smile. When you do that often enough, your brain starts searching for those bright spots automatically. And slowly, the world begins to feel lighter again. It's fascinating. Science actually backs this up. Studies show that people who practice gratitude regularly sleep better, feel calmer, and even have stronger immune systems. But beyond all that, gratitude helps you reconnect with joy. It reminds you that happiness isn't something you have to chase. It's something you can cultivate right where you are. And maybe that's a quiet lesson in all of this, that happiness after 60 isn't about chasing youth control or perfection. It's about acceptance, about being gentle with yourself, and learning to see your own life, not as something that's fading, but as something that's ripening. So take a moment to breathe. Think about the things that really fill your heart. The smell of rain, the laughter of your grandchildren, the taste of your favorite meal, the warmth of a quiet afternoon. Those aren't small details. They're the pieces of a full life. Now that we talk about letting go of worry, rediscovering purpose, and shifting away from negativity, it's time to look at one more subtle but deeply important pattern, one that can either lift you into a happier, freer state of mind or quietly hold you back from it without you even noticing. Have you ever caught yourself saying, "I'm too old for that"? Maybe it was when someone suggested learning a new skill, traveling somewhere unfamiliar, or trying a different way of doing something you've done the same way for years. It's such a small sentence, but it carries a heavy weight, because behind it sits an invisible barrier, the belief that adventure, growth, or excitement belong only to the young. But let's pause on that thought. Why should curiosity have an expiration date? Why should joy shrink just because the candles on the cake have multiplied? The truth is, you're never too old to begin again. Not with new hobbies, not with new friendships, not even with a new version of yourself. When people stop trying new things after 60, it's often out of fear. Fear of failure, of looking silly, of stepping outside the familiar. But staying within that safe circle can quietly drain your happiness. The brain loves novelty. It thrives on challenge. Every time you learn something new, whether it's painting, dancing, using a new app, or even taking a different walking route, your mind lights up. You feel engaged, alert, and alive. One gentleman once told me that, after retiring, he started taking cooking classes. "I used to think cooking was my wife's domain," he laughed. "Now I can make a mean risotto, and I've got friends from class who are half my age. They don't see me as an old man. They see me as the guy who brings dessert." That spark in his voice, that's what renewal sounds like. It doesn't matter how small the step is. Maybe it's trying yoga, joining a local book club, or learning to play the ukulele you've had tucked away for years. Every new experience reminds you that life is still unfolding, still full of surprises waiting for you to say yes. When you say, "I'm too old," you close a door. When you say, "Why not?" you open one. And behind that door might be something that makes you feel 10 years younger. Not because it erases time, but because it reconnects you with wonder. But there's one more habit we need to talk about. one that can silently shape your happiness more than all the others combined. It's holding on to resentment. It's so human to do it. Someone hurt you, disappointed you, forgot you when you needed them most. Maybe it was a friend, a sibling, or even your own child. And though years pass, that wound sits there, quietly pulsing beneath the surface. You might not think about it every day, but it lingers, heavy, unspoken. And the longer you hold it, the more it steals your peace. Here's the truth that can feel hard to accept. Forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was okay. It's about freeing yourself from carrying the pain any longer. When you forgive, you don't erase the past. You release its grip on your heart. Think of it like this. Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will get sick. The only person it harms is you. And you deserve better than that. You deserve the lightness that comes when you finally set it down. Forgiveness doesn't always happen in one moment. Sometimes it's a quiet process, a softening over time. You start by saying, "I'm tired of being angry." Then, little by little, that tightness in your chest begins to loosen. One day, you realize that the memory no longer burns. That's not weakness, that's healing. And when you let go, something beautiful happens. Space opens up inside you. Space for laughter, for compassion, for the peace that was always meant to be yours. Because holding on keeps your heart stuck in yesterday. Letting go lets it finally breathe again. As you think about these 5 habits, holding on to the past, people-pleasing, compare yourself to others, worrying, losing purpose, staying negative, closing yourself off, or holding grudges. Maybe you recognize a few in yourself. That's okay. Awareness isn't judgment. It's the first step toward freedom. Every stage of life asks something different from us. In your younger years, it was about building careers, families, routines. But after 60, life asks something gentler, something deeper. It asks you to simplify, to release what no longer fits, and to fill your days not with busyness, but with meaning. You don't have to chase youth to feel alive. You just have to start saying yes to what brings you peace. A walk in the morning sun, a call with someone you love, the feeling of your favorite song humming through your chest. Maybe happiness after 60 isn't about adding anything new at all. Maybe it's about subtraction, removing the expectations, the guilt, the comparisons, the clutter. Because underneath all that, what remains is something pure and powerful. You, as you truly are. So, take a moment and imagine this next chapter. You wake up and stretch without rushing. You pour yourself a cup of coffee and feel grateful just to be here. You've let go of yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's worries. You've stopped trying to be someone else's version of enough. And slowly, day by day, you start to feel that quiet hum of contentment again. You begin to laugh more. You start forgiving more easily. You find beauty in the ordinary. The way the sunlight spills across the floor, the way a breeze moves through your curtains, the way silence feels comfortable now instead of lonely. That's the gift waiting on the other side of letting go. If any part of this message spoke to you, take it as a gentle invitation, not to change overnight, but to begin releasing one thing at a time. You've already done the hardest parts of life. Now it's your turn to enjoy it, fully, freely, and without apology. And if you found something meaningful here, share your thoughts below. Tell me, which of these habits are you ready to let go of? I'd love to hear your story, because your words might help someone else take that first step too. If this video brought you a moment of calm or clarity, please give it a like and subscribe for more conversations just like this. Ones that remind you that it's never too late to feel lighter, brighter, and happier. Here's to living your best years with an open heart and a peaceful mind. Here's to fewer worries, deeper laughter, and the simple joy of being alive. Right here, right now.